Hello! This is going to go perfectly fine. Was this one of the best nights in wrestling ever? Let us know, what did you think of this week's NXT and AEW Dynamite shows? I personally absolutely loved both of them. Just realised I've not switched my screen to the correct one, so hopefully that's now done that. Right. Oh, so we are live, both on Spreaker and on YouTube. Hopefully it's going perfectly fine. I can see myself peeking a little bit on YouTube. So yeah, let me just check Spreaker. I've not unmuted myself on Spreaker, but if on YouTube you heard all of that, that's great. Immediately off to a great start. Anyway, hello and welcome to LOP Radio Live if you're on YouTube, and it'll be on Imp's LOP Radio Adventure if you are listening via podcast or Spreaker or whatever. Two places at once. Live in both video and audio. What could possibly go wrong? The answer, everything, is I've not tweeted it out either, so that's bloody great. Oh, so much going on. So, at the moment, we are testing stuff out, I think it's fair to say, with YouTube. I know that there were... Yeah, it's fair to say we are testing the waters. We are in a testing phase, essentially. So... Yeah, we're testing stuff out. We're perfectly we're open to whatever you want, whatever criticism you've got, whatever ideas you've got. We're up for testing stuff out. If the idea is to be posting a lot more frequently with Lords of Pain on YouTube, and to get LOP Radio up on pretty much everything up on YouTube. That is the plan, and we are also hoping to do live streams after pay-per-views, and we've got AEW After Dark, which I'll try and get up as quickly as possible. It's not as easy to get everything up live working. Like the simulcast, I've got no idea what the quality's like. I don't know what I sound like on YouTube. I could just test that. That'll be weird. I'm going to hear myself in a second. I sound fine. Thank God for that. There we go. That's good. Hopefully I'm not cutting in and out. Do message in the chat if you are listening on YouTube and I do cut out. Because, again, testing the waters. This is brand new. I don't know anything. At least the image has switched, so that's bloody great. But anyway, today, as you can tell by the title, was this one of the best nights in wrestling ever? Talking the Wednesday Night Wrestling Fun, AEW Dynamite and WWE's NXT. Who Wednesdayed it better? Spoilers, I thought they were both great. But first, 80s Wrestling Con takes place on Saturday, October 26th in Freehold, New Jersey at iPlay America. The event features Ted DiBiase, Sergeant Slaughter, Bob Backlund, Paul Orndorff, Demolition, Brutus Beefcake, and more. For superstars, attractions, and ticket information, go to 80swrestlingcon.com, and the event will be live streamed live on lawsofpain.net. So even if you can't be there live, please do join us for what will be a truly amazing day. Also, you can tell, as a podcaster who does this quite often, I'm really pissed that I stuttered over the end of that. I did so well. Oh, it was going so well, and now it's just right down the crapper. Also, because this is done live on YouTube, I've upgraded. I've realised what I was about to say means nothing to people who don't listen to me normally, but I've had to... Not so sure, my house is getting an extension, so where I would normally do this is not available. A bit not great for streaming, let's say. So I've had to do a makeshift kind of area. I've been bringing cushions in to make the sound a bit better, but I've upgraded the sound fort. They're calling it. I might take a picture of it because it's so blatantly. I was going to say so blatantly hapdash. Not to sound too British, but yes, it's rather hapdash to put it nicely. Yeah, with a quilt dangling from out a window, cushions a cushion balanced between a PlayStation and a television. It's not falling over, so that's great. Oh, behind the mic, you don't really care. For me, it's like, whoa, it's so hapdash. But hopefully, it does sound a little bit better, and the sound isn't bouncing everywhere like it has been in the past few weeks. So again, do let me know. Send me messages. I'm on Twitter at the Damn Implicat as well. If you want to send me insults or whatever, some people do. It's the internet. You can't do anything about that. But in terms of LOP, before I get into the main bulk of the show. YouTube. With LOP on YouTube, what's all this then? So the plan is to start doing this sort of thing a little bit more going forward. This stream, and I can't stress this enough, is a test stream. Just to see how smoothly the transition to doing all this will work. I'm not expecting massive, immediate, live feedback on this. I can't even see I need to figure out just how to sort my window so I can see how many people are actually in the chat or something like that. But yeah, I'm not expecting massive feedback. I've not got super chat turned on or anything like that. I've set it up on the live stream to do that sort of thing, but of course, like it's not activated on the YouTube channel, whatever. We're currently going for monetization, and we're getting close. So live streams doing this sort of thing is amazing for that. Just like ticking away the time so we can get the channel monetized and do that sort of thing. So yeah, the plan of today isn't to have amazing feedback in the chat and get it all active and really feel down or up, depending on that. Like no, like the fundamentals. Does the stream work? Do I go out or whatever? Does it sound good? All that boring stuff. So that is my main concern today. And because I'm also going out live on Spreaker for the podcast side of things as well. So that's going to be interesting. We'll see how it goes as I nervously giggle. But yeah, that's the plan. To do more of this kind of live streaming stuff. Like I'll try and practice to do this like every single week. Mostly because I want the pay-per-view ones to be a bit more high caliber. So the plan is to do at least do these live streams for pay-per-views with the Aftershock shows we do here on LOP Radio. Possibly live with this show most weeks. And edited videos, like proper edited videos, are going to be making your way hopefully every week too. That falls on do I have the time to do it? This week I hopefully have. I say hopefully because at the editing phase. That's the longest bit if you know anything about this world. But yeah, so look for that. The point is, on LOP Radio, sorry, try that again. On LOP YouTube, there's not really been much consistency with what we're offering, and I'm trying to change that. And I know Tim Rose, economist and newsperson Tim Rose, is also putting in a big effort to kind of get the ball rolling a bit more with this LOP YouTube side. So that's why I'm streaming currently. We'll see how it goes. Anyway. Oh, also, there's the other caveat of, I know my former co-host Byrne has always wanted to do a watch-along, so his dream may finally come true. It is out there as a possibility to finally do a live stream. It was like years ago he'd hit me up about doing it, and now we can actually do it. We're behind the curve. We were ahead of the curve years ago. Like, he was bringing it up like 3 years ago. Now everybody's doing it. It's not as special. So, yeah. Oh well, but we'll do it anyway. They always seem like really good fun to do that sort of thing, and he's been banging on about it for years, so I can finally shut him up. So tonight, NXT and AEW. I'm going to start with the main events of both shows, kind of comparing how they both ended, then I'll go through them in order. I'll start with AEW, because that's the order I watched the shows in. But I will say with this first bit with the main events, I do want to talk about NXT first, because that was the major talking point. Like, normally you can gauge on Twitter like which show's got more people talking, purely because I follow like a wide breadth of people. I try to get a wide enough opinion so that it will be both sides of the argument are getting covered. So I've got the pro NXT kind of crowd, I've got the pro AEW crowd, I've got the crowd in the middle, the crowd who just want wrestling, the crowd who are constantly comparing the ratings, the crowd who don't give a crap about the ratings. Like, I try to get as wide a spectrum as possible, so I kind of come into these shows as educated as I can be on what the bit greater feeling is. So of course that means I see a lot of the negative going back and forth, but it's within a context. Like with Twitter, I kind of you try to learn like which ones to take note of, which ones to get a bit angry of. So sometimes I get pulled in. It happens. You see a take on Twitter and it gets you. It's like, but I do my best. Like a wide breadth of opinion just to get those things covered. But NXT was flat out like the one thing constantly being talked about because of the ending. It ended on an incredible note, whilst AEW I thought ended on a really good note. Ended on a high, but with NXT they ended on something which was arguably one of their greatest moments ever. Like, I'm not just talking about the TV era. Like, this is one of NXT's most memorable moments in the history of NXT. When we look back at the history of NXT, this will be one of the greatest moments that they ever produced. So AEW stood no chance, essentially. Whatever they booked, they would have had to really go to hell for leather when that's not really their approach so far. NXT, they threw one hell of a curveball. But it all started with the North American Championship. Let's not get too far ahead of ourselves with this one. We had the North American Championship being defended by Roderick Strong against Keith Lee and Dominik Dijakovic Obviously, Roderick Strong enters that as a massive underdog, purely because he's going up against two big lads who fly like cruiserweights. Like poor Roderick Strong. Like, the crowd were white hot for this match, particularly towards the end of it after they were fighting ringside, and Lee popped up strong onto Dijakovic's shoulders, who then nailed the man with the Feast Your Eyes. Cue the crowd being on their feet for the remainder of the match as Keith Lee and Dijakovic. I can't say bloody... Dijakovic is what they call him, but I'm used... On the Indies he was Dijak, and with my knowledge of how Croatian names are said, I just say Dijakovic. Which is not how it's said in WWE, and I can't wrap my brain around that. I'm too European. It's too strong. But yes, Lee and Dijakovic. I don't want to. I can just say Dijak. It's a lot easier. Lee and Dominic were going hell for leather in the middle of the ring, and the crowd were going absolutely crazy. I don't think they had sat down from that ringside moment for the entire ending. Then in comes Roderick Strong and hits was kick. It was like a running knee type of thing. It's nothing super special. But the point was, a big move had just been done with Keith Lee power bombing Dominic off the top rope in one of those that hits the mat with just such a thud where you just like, this should end the match kind of thing. Nowadays, it might not have, but we will never know. It led to the end, so like you can't complain about something that didn't happen. It's in that kind of. But yeah, Strong got the win. Amazing match. Highly recommend you watch it. It is the NXT special of today with lots of big moves, lots of kickouts, lots of high energy and excitement, loads of crowd popping moments. If that's your kind of wrestling, then you will love this. I don't know why I'm pausing for so long for dramatic effect, because you know what's going next. This was when the Undisputed Era came out, so yeah, just to celebrate with Strong, there's nothing wrong with this. Then they started attacking Keith Lee and Dijakovic, and they were beating them down, which brought out Tommaso Ciampa. Mauro Ranallo went, "What?" But in his voice, not whatever that was. He comes out and he goes, he's going crazy whilst, I can't believe his name, Tommaso Ciampa comes out. Of course, Ciampa has come out week after week. I don't know why Ranallo was so surprised. He's come out week after week and kind of just circled Adam Cole. He's not needed to say many words because we all know what he wants. His presentation since coming back, I've loved. He's got one thing on his mind, and that's he's direct with it. So him coming out and just staring down, holding a crutch to the Undisputed Era, like, you know why he's there, which is why I was really surprised. It caught me off guard that Ranallo was so surprised. Like, really? Really, Mauro? That caught you off guard? You weren't expecting that? Like, really? Anyway, so yeah, that happened. But that then brought out Gargano before Ciampa could do anything. The crowd are going crazy because, of course, this is the reformation of #DIY. They dropped the hashtag, don't know why I said that. And they're going crazy for that. So, oh yeah, DIY, even though they're men down, they're DIY. They can go after Undisputed Era. It'll be an awesome thing. They may not win, but it'll be an awesome brawl. Which is when Finn Balor's music hits. Suddenly 4-on-3, you like the odds a little bit more. Obviously, Balor had been hyped over this week, and last week he gave like a really good promo, kind of teasing what was to come next. And the key phrase that he was using was that my past will be my future. We just all assumed he was talking about NXT. It was surely he said it after returning to NXT. Surely he just means he's returning to NXT, which will now be his home. Yeah, nothing untoward about that. But we assumed wrong. Turns out he was talking about what he was like before NXT. And if you don't, well, it's one of those things where if you don't really know about what Finn Balor was like before he came to WWE, I don't really want to spoil it for anyone. Purely because that it might be a little bit different how he's portrayed in NXT. But like seeing him grow as a character, surely it's going to be a hell of a lot more rewarding if I kind of don't go too much into what he was like in New Japan as the amazing heel, as the leader of the Bullet Club. Yeah, he's not in Undisputed Era, which is something I really, really love. He's got his own agendas, and like the way he sold this with his facial expressions was amazing. I absolutely loved the presentation from Finn Balor here. You could just the anger and focus towards Johnny Gargano. It was amazing. And after he did that attack, Undisputed Era then went after Tommaso Ciampa, and Adam Cole was keeping an eye on Finn Balor. So again, in terms of really good storytelling and setting up, Adam Cole's feuding with Ciampa, they attack Ciampa. Finn Balor starts something with Gargano. However, Adam Cole ultimately knows that Balor would like to become NXT champion, so that look between the two of them has set up something for the future. Only issue being, it's NXT. When are the next call-ups happening? Especially when you look at what happened last year with the main roster, where it was just out of nowhere call-ups happened, and some people ended up debuting and then not getting called up. So, like, bad luck with Tommaso Ciampa, but that also affected Gargano, and neither man got elevated to that level. We lost Aleister Black and Ricochet just in an area. Then they suddenly got a goodbye, so good for them. But call-ups could happen at any moment, which makes that's the major difference between AEW and NXT. NXT, at the end of the day, is a developmental. No matter how much they go, oh, you can't call us a developmental now. But they are, though. And there's always that danger that folk will be called up. The USA deal, though, has thrown stuff into the works of, oh, can they actually do proper long-term storylines now? Like, are they actually in danger of being as called up immediately as they were back in the day? I say back in the day, I mean earlier this year. It brings a new era. We don't know how it's going to work. The assumption is it will work slightly differently than it has done in the past in terms of like the regularity or like the top names immediately getting promoted to the main roster. Like, we don't know if that's the case or if you're going to get established guys who don't really go up. Like Ciampa, Gargano, they've just not. They've been in NXT for absolutely ages. 100% earned that part where they go, I can't really say it, where they get elevated to that next level. But NXT's now trying to become a brand of its own, so do they still do that? Who knows? I really don't know. That said, this was still amazing. I'm going a bit all over the place. This was an amazing end to the show. Finn Balor's kick was done so damn well, with him taking his jacket off and then so smoothly into the bicycle kick. And Full Sail was absolutely shocked, which was like my favourite part about this was their reaction. Because quite often in WWE, like, you have a heel turn to be a huge pop. It was like, yes, a heel turn, or yes, something interesting, a character to get invested in. Which was kind of my thinking when Dean Ambrose turned heel. It got a major pop rather than what we were kind of hope. Like here, this was genuine shock, and that's the best reaction you could hope for with a turn like this. Just a complete like, what's going on? I can't wait. What? And then it turns into boos, and the clip that's gone round on Twitter of after Finn Balor did a follow-up kick on Gargano, well, running drop kicky thing. There was a kid in the crowd, and he started to make it. He started to go after Gargano, but his dad held him back. And it's just like, oh, that is the kind of emotion you want to bring out of people, which it's so foreign in wrestling these days. And we kind of saw like a crowd getting really behind something in a certain way, like on both shows tonight, in completely different kind of emotion. Like one was like flipping, yeah, and the other one was just like, oh my god, I'm what do I do? It was amazing to see. So, such an incredible end to NXT, which sets so much up. As what you're saying, it's not just Balor, which is set up in this angle. You got the other thing of Ciampa as well, and you got Keith Lee, Dijakovic. I mixed the two up that time. Dijakovic. Why am I struggling so much? I've already told you why I'm struggling so much. I just can't say it. Dijakovic. Dijakovic, he has got his feud with Keith Lee. I need to stop. I need to move on. I've said his name way too much. But yeah, he had his feud with Keith Lee, and that was awesome to see. That set up onto the next stage as well. I know we've seen him wrestle a lot, but for me, it's kind of like to that next stage. Even if they tease some form of tag team thing whilst all the other titles are busy, especially with Roderick Strong seemingly not done with Velveteen Dream or that kind of area. There's Matt Riddle to throw in somewhere as well. You got Tyler Bate versus Cameron Grimes and his hat. You got that to look forward to. But yeah, an amazing end to NXT. Which then brings us to AEW and their main event. Which, as I said earlier, ended on a really good high note where I'm really looking forward to watching next week. But it also was like, it was nowhere near NXT. So in terms of like which show went off with the... You can tell that's what I meant by you could tell by the internet. Most people were talking about NXT because that was the angle that got the most people talking. But that doesn't mean AEW didn't end solidly. I also really enjoyed its ending. So in AEW fashion, we ended with a fantastic main event, Jon Moxley versus Pac, which built up from last week. This was Dynamite's first TV time remaining time limit draw. To put it simply, an amazing back and forth. In the end, Pac took too long going for the Black Arrow. I think it's called the Black Arrow. Moxley couldn't put him away as the bastard kept kicking out. I don't know if that will get us demonetised, but as I said earlier, it doesn't matter at this point. Ref calls for the bell and we go off air with Moxley going crazy and attacking the referee whilst going, time limit draw my ass. Don't know why he's Southern now. But yeah, this was another amazing main event match. When I simplified it to amazing back and forth, it was one of those bits, at times it brawled, at times it was just in the ring constant counters. It got to that point where at the time limit draw, both were so exhausted that they just couldn't hit their moves quick enough. Moxley did finally hit the paradigm shift on Pac, but it just wasn't enough. He couldn't put him away, and that led to the time limit draw stuff and all that as well. So it ended on a very interesting note where I felt like me watching it at home, I enjoyed the hell out of that show, absolutely flew by. And the main event for me was also very satisfying, and I was excited to see what will happen next week, coming off of this, ending with Moxley attacking a referee after being pissed that his match with Pac ended in a time limit draw. It's like, yeah, I love that. That was great. It made both men feel like awesome competitors, and it set something up for the pay-per-view. Because again, that's the point of television, to not give everything away and get you excited to see this kind of match on pay-per-view. It was, for me, this was it's the kind of thing that has been vacant from wrestling for so long that I won't really find it too crazy if people found it a little bit a bit down of a way to end, just because we don't see this thing very often anymore. It used to be extremely prevalent 20, 30 years ago, but nowadays you don't see booking like this. Hence why I loved it. It was nice to see this sort of thing and why it was used as well. So, an amazing ending. Also, after this happened, so if you were watching live on TNT, you didn't get to see this. If you're watching on Fight, like a lot of us over in the UK would have been, especially someone like me where I've got a deadline to watch this stuff. If it's uploaded at 7 PM, that's cutting it close, so I don't take the risk. But we got an amazing sequence where we set up matches for the future as well, with Hangman Page coming out challenging Pac, with Kenny Omega, Jon Moxley. As to end the kind of brawling kind of nature where the show went off in, they then used it to set up angles for the next week. I was like, yes, this is great. Full Gear is right around the corner. They're directing towards that a little bit more. It's like, yes, great to see. Genuinely an amazingly enjoyable show. It's just that NXT ended on a massive point that will get people talking, rather than AEW's, I guess, biggest questioning point will be, what did you think about the time limit draw? Where personally, I don't know what any of you thought about the time limit draw. Those of you listening on YouTube can comment down below. But the general feeling for me is I'm fine with it. We just don't see it very often, so we're not used to it. And that's like with a lot of AEW. I don't know if it just feels a little bit off because I'm just not used to it, or if this is a thing that used to work but nowadays does it. We'll wait and see. These first few weeks have had kind of growing pains, like the teething problems, but that I knew them out at such a record speed that I'm just I can't help but applaud every week. Each week I feel like I'm enjoying the show more and more, when in reality I'm probably enjoying them at an equal amount. It's just that I'm not used to such consistency, and they're not doing anything spectacular. They're just putting on wrestling matches and setting up nice angles. There's great continuity, great character building, and the arts feel continuous as well. It's I genuinely loved everything about this show, and the end of it fit that as well. I've seen a lot of people say that they thought this episode was flat. I personally didn't feel that at all. It absolutely flew by for me. Genuinely enjoyed it, which was great to see. But that also meant, after I watched NXT, I was just as elated. I generally enjoyed the hell out of both shows. So in the question of who Wednesdayed it better, both of them? I generally can't pick one. In terms of which show ended with the most people talking, NXT. if you ask me which was the more solid show, neither. They were both great. And I'd have to do a massive pros and cons list, and I'm not Brian Zane. So, yeah, go to his channel if you want a pros and cons list. But for me, yeah, genuinely enjoyed all of them, and I can't say the word genuinely. Jesus Christ, what's wrong with me? Yes. Anyway, so I do need to take a quick sip of water before I jump onto the next bit. So, if you're listening on the podcast form, this is where the ad break will be. If you're listening live on YouTube, I'll be as quick as possible, as it is like 25 past midnight at night. I'm gonna have to take a drink. So, but bottoms up, everybody. Back as quickly as possible, just to get the drink down me. I'm not clearing my throat or anything. Well done me. Anyway, so now I'm going to go down the kind of pay-per-view, what happened on AEW and NXT. As I said earlier, I generally enjoyed both shows to an awesome degree. If you hear my mouse clicking about, it's because I'm just checking everything. I've got so many windows open just to get this working. So first, AEW. This was the order. I watched AEW first, then NXT. That's kind of the way it's happened for me. God, that rhymes. But with the two promotions, like NXT is the one I'm struggling to fit in the most. Like this week, I had today off because I had to do a thing. But if I've got to generally go out and do stuff, I'm generally struggling to get NXT into my week, just because I've got so much going on anyway. And now I'm now helping out with the YouTube side of things as well. There's so much going on that I'm struggling to get NXT in. Like, I'm doing my best, but there's a lot going on. So, and the script this week was over 2,000 words or so, which I think is normal. But for me, that on top of the 4,000 word columns, suddenly I'm doing quite a lot. So NXT on the verge of being in danger of falling off. However, on a week like this, more than enough time, and I'm all the happier for it. Last week I was a bit down that I couldn't get through it before I went live on this show, but this week, awesome to see. However, we kicked off AEW with the tag team title tournament semi-final, Private Party versus Lucha Brothers, in an amazing match with so many awesome spots. The perfect match really to energize the crowd and just set the whole show alive with energy. Something for me which didn't really die down, even when it was an odd thing. It felt like the momentum just carried on really, really well. The second match did that with Jericho awesomely. But yeah, Private Party versus Lucha Brothers. Private Party have been made by this tournament. There were some people questioning whether Young Bucks should have been in this spot, but no. Even though they lost the next match, they looked amazing against the Lucha Brothers. They looked amazing against the Young Bucks. And they are made men in AEW, especially as they are really pushing tag team wrestling as something a bit more than just a side attraction, which I guess it is in WWE, where they go on and off whether they care about it or not. AEW is flat out telling you, we care about this. This will be a featured part of our product. So you expect consistency in that, and every week they have been consistently featured to quite a strong degree. Lots of tag team wrestling on AEW, and that kind of helps keep away those special matches that I don't want to be. I've done pretty well. I'm not really talking about WWE main roster too much, but the kind of thing that you hear quite a few people complaining is seeing the same match over and over again. Whilst here with AEW doing a lot of tag team wrestling can nerf that. Obviously, it's early days, so you just the AEW fans are just excited to see AEW doing the wrestling and seeing all these new stars. So there isn't really too much of a question about, I don't want to see Ricochet versus Cesaro for the 20th time. I could watch those two forever. I've been watching them wrestle each other since their indie days. I have been watching them wrestle each other for years. WWE was not the first time, and I can't wait to see them again. I love those two together. As an example, it's led me on a tangent. But yeah, there's going to be less identical matches. You'll see people in matches together. Of course, we saw Pac and Moxley teaming together last week on AEW, and then this week in a match together. But that's kind of stuff leading on from the previous week, which is great to see. But with this tag team tournament, it's great to see the consistency with the opponents kind of being built up and at least relevant on shows, Private Party being ringside if they've not been in the match itself. Lucha Brothers have attacked somebody, they attacked SCU, even though they weren't like wrestling on the show, their what's the word? Their presence was felt. I don't know if that's right, but yeah, their presence was felt throughout the tag team tournament, even though they were absent. And of course, we found out now that was foreshadowing the final, which, well, when you look back at it, was pretty obvious. And I think I saw a few people saying how obvious it was that would be the final. But I'm fine with how they built it up. But yeah, they're the right winners. If you look at the tournament, how it went, it's like kind of like, well, why would you have booked somebody else? And at least there's something going into the final now because of the attack. It's not just, oh, we know he's going to win, and then you watch it happen. Like, they did an angle to set it up, which then does tease and inform you a bit about what might happen down the line. So yeah. Anyway, so Private Party and Lucha Brothers. Yeah, I think the way to describe Private Party is, I kind of describe them as like the Harlem Globetrotters of wrestling. So like, they'll do their wrestling move or fancy kick, but they'll do it with way more flash than necessary, way more flips than necessary, an incredible amount of athleticism that makes you go ooh and wows you, even if you're questioning whether that amount of flippy do was that necessary. But that's what Private Party remind me of, as in, they are, if somebody says, oh, there's loads of moves that are just showing off, it's like, for me, that's what Private Party are. They are a team that is just showing off. Like, sure, they could just kick them normally or just do a normal head scissors or whatever. But no, they do like 50 flips beforehand. They do amazing spins and things. Do it with so much energy. Do it while screaming, or the high-pitched scream as well. Like, they are so over the top with what they do that I do just compare them to the Harlem Globetrotters. They are that in wrestling, and that's kind of how... they've not been described like that on television, but the way they wrestle, that's just immediately what they remind me of. And the Lucha Brothers are like the best tag team in wrestling, but also the Young Bucks are the best tag team in wrestling, and SCU are like arguably one of the best trios in wrestling. Well, Omega and Young Bucks are awesome together, but I digress. So like, you got these so many amazing teams. And I can't see anyone other than the Lucha Brothers winning at Full Gear. I'm assuming that's when the final is. I can't remember now. But yeah, it's 100% the right team. Also, Rey Fenix in this match, yeah, he is so damn good. And you could hear Tony Schiavone just getting so excited watching Fenix in this match. It's like, you could hear the genuine joy in his voice watching this product, which is, it's great to hear that kind of thing. Like, in WWE, like, they're not, I don't know, they feel so scripted, the commentators. I don't know how scripted they are today. I'm assuming it's like way more than it was, just like everything else is. But if the commentary feels so scripted that these genuine moments are rare. They're not there. They do exist. They do have those moments. I'm not being black and white with it. But in AEW, you can really feel it during the matches. Like, they're not going, oh, wasn't that awesome? Because they've been fed the line, or they've been told to say that's awesome. Like, it generally feels like they thought that was awesome. They were genuinely smiling and enjoying themselves, and that was their reaction. It's great, and you can hear it with JR as well, like, on the other side, like, constantly questioning things. And it's like, am I missing something here? Was kind of his reaction to Orange Cassidy, and the other two try and cover and make it seem exciting. But that, like, I like the fact they're free to do that sort of thing. It makes the commentary feel so much more legit and so less, I was going to say the word cringy, or just difficult to listen to at times. Like, I've developed an amazing ability to not listen to the wrestlers in WWE, whilst in AEW, I'm generally, I'm tuned into what they're saying because it's enjoyable to listen to for me. I know a lot of people aren't too high on JR. Personally, I'm perfectly fine with him. Like, I haven't got that many qualms at all, really. Like, yeah, there's a lot of like modern day stuff that he doesn't really gel with, but that's fine. The other two, they do gel with it, so it works for me. It's perfectly fine. You don't have that compared to New Japan, where, because first, I am a New Japan mark. That is my company. That's kind of what helps me when I'm writing columns about WWE and the NXT AEW every single week. Like, my number one promotion isn't any of those. It's New Japan. And for me, Jim Ross in New Japan was so much worse than he is here in AEW. Like, it's not even close. Like, anybody who watched it can say. But it wasn't even close how bad JR was compared to what he is here in AEW. Like, he's a million times better. You can tell he's having so much fun, even if he doesn't quite agree with the direction of some of the things. or doesn't quite understand what something is meant to be, cough cough Orange Cassidy, he's still having the time of his life. And Excalibur and Tony Schiavone are, you can tell it by the way they're talking as well, about how much fun they're having doing this job. So, yeah, it makes watching the show so much easier. And really, I think the main point for WWE would be maybe just don't skip them as much, especially as if you've watched Michael Cole on a WWE production where he's not kind of micromanaged to that degree as he is on commentary on Raw, he is a good commentator. Like, sorry to break the internet wrestling world with that thing that quite a few people already know, but yeah, the NXT UK Championship tournament, he was really good. Like, I genuinely had no issues with Michael Cole. Yes, he called the odd move incorrectly, but like live on commentary, it's going to happen. Like, I can't speak. I forget wrestlers' names as I'm talking about them. I can't really step up to somebody and have beef with them because they said a wrestling move wrong when it's this is actually the wrestling move. It's like, it doesn't matter. At the end of the day, it really doesn't matter. And yeah, I can't criticise for it because I'm way worse. I'm way worse than that. But anyway, so with the match itself, you can hear the excitement from the commentators, and the crowd were going mental for it as well. The amount of energy this show started with, and the idea to start with this show as well, where like NXT would start with its little build-up, and then it's got its entrance, introductions, whilst AEW, immediately, if you're one of those people watching both at the same time, your attention had to be on AEW during the start. Like, you'd see Rhea Ripley coming out and Bianca Belair, it's like, oh, that's cool, but AEW, their match has already started, and it's going at a lightning pace. It's already grabbed your attention. And this is a new era, where it's not flicking backwards and forth. When I say going back and forth, I mean, you've got them both up on different devices, and you're just moving your head. Like, it's not rating, it's time you're fighting for. And if somebody is doing that, where they're just looking left and right between AEW and NXT, surely those of you who did that, I might hit up Jeff from Kingdom of Honor, or who was live on AEW with Dynamite After Dark, which I uploaded to YouTube earlier today. But yeah, I might hit up Jeff because I know in the past weeks, he has done that with watching AEW on one device and NXT on the other at the same time. And I wouldn't be surprised if AEW caught the attention way quicker, because that's what it would have done for me, personally. So, with the Lucha Brothers going over, which was 100% the right decision. I was talking about Phoenix earlier, wasn't I? There's one spot I just wanted to hit on with Phoenix. I know he can do like all the amazing rope maneuvers. Like, he's the genuine king of the ropes. He is so damn good. Like, he's not just good on the ropes. It feels extremely impressive when he does it. Like, he makes it look impressive, which is like a big thing in wrestling. It's not just do the thing, it's how does it look when you do it. And Phoenix, he looks incredible when he's doing those moves. So I can't wait to see more. I've watched Lucha Underground myself, so I've seen lots of these two, and then seen them quite often in PWG. So I'm not unaware of how these guys wrestle. But it impresses me every single time. The thing that really impressed me from him, however, was when he hit a gory bomb and a leg drop at the same time, taking out both of the Private Party members. It was like, oh, that was so good. And the ending, which I thought was just amazing. It's an awesome sequence where they hit their finisher, whatever it's called, the Hurricane Rana off the top rope into a cutter. I can't remember what it's called. It's a drink, gin and tonic, something like that. Something in gin. So they hit that, and but they do it on the wrong man. They hit it on Phoenix, and then one of them's calling for them to go to the pin. It's like, no, he's not the legal man. So they go over to Phoenix, and they go to do the same move. However, instead of the cutter being successfully hit, when Pentagon lands, he lands on his feet, and then flips over with a Canadian Destroyer. It's like, that was amazing. Like, well done. It's just completely swung momentum in an instant. In the end, that kind of then led to the ending sequence, with the Lucha Brothers picking up the win and advancing to the finals. But yeah, what an amazing match. It's so damn good. Then we got Wardlow's coming to AEW. The beef is coming, lads. The big beefy Wardlow. He's coming to AEW. So, yeah, he's working out to extreme music. I don't know what nice to call it. I guess extreme music is good enough. So, yeah. Chat-wise, I am live on YouTube, yay, yes. Thank you, Kath. It's all working so far. I'm clicking back and forth sorry to the audio if you can hear that. Hopefully the sound fortress, it's a cushion fort. There's no other way to put it. But yeah, hopefully the sound fortress is cushioning some of the clicks, but I'm constantly going back and forth because I'm nervous it's going to just all collapse at any second. Or like my internet goes or something because I'm straining it too much. Then, something I really, really liked is we immediately went into a package about SCU with the attack on Christopher Daniels and how long he's going to be out. Then they cut to SoCal Uncensored versus the Dark Order. Yes, like I don't know why this would kind of hit me the way it did, but just the idea of both tag team tournament semi-finals back to back to start the show. So like the energy and momentum just doesn't die. And in terms of that energy and momentum not dying, they seemingly thought this through. They noticed that in the build to television, the Dark Order just weren't getting over. Like there was a lot of potential. It maybe wasn't executed quite correctly, or it maybe didn't have. When he tested it out, maybe the potential wasn't quite as great as they thought. But yeah, the Dark Order hasn't worked. They're both great wrestlers. I love them, especially Grayson. Actually, I don't know. I love Grayson's athletic ability. However, the other one, whatever his name is, what is his name? Evil Uno. I kind of love his like mannerisms. Like he's really, I don't know how to say this, like cartoony anime villain kind of thing. Like you could see him being in Mario. Obviously, they were called the Super Mario Brothers way back when. But yeah, I really like his mannerisms and everything about that, and the way the creepers go about is unique and really, really interesting visual to see. But it's just not clicked. Like it's a bit too other, I guess, in a way. It's a bit too out there, especially with the rest of the presentation. It doesn't quite fit with AEW, but they're both great. And maybe the idea, like now, is to tone down on the weird a bit and just get them over as wrestlers. Then you can build the characters a bit afterwards. This felt a lot like that. Grayson was insane, with the best spot being just there was a spot which played off our expectations. Like there were so many amazing points in the I was going to say the lucha match, but the opening match had so many awesome spots. But my favourite one came in this one, where Grayson and Scorpio were just kind of they were whipping each other into the corners. Then Grayson then goes to run towards like the opposite corner, and like he's been thrown to the opposite corner, whipped, and he's like he's going to just bounce back off the turnbuckle and then hit down. I think it was Scorpio. I just said it's Scorpio. Just hit down Scorpio's guy. However, because we're just used to that happening, it's kind of we've seen this spot so many times, we can just automatically predict the next bit. Like when you're reading a book and your brain goes, I know what word's next, and it just like it auto texts for you, it auto reads the book for you. Quite often it does that wrong. And this is exactly what happened here. Sorry if I just peaked audio wise. But yeah, that's what that's what happened here. What was a cough with Stu Grayson. Is it Stu Grayson? Then instead of bouncing off, our auto read was incorrect. Grayson then flew over the top and took out Kazarian on the outside. It just caught me completely by surprise, which was awesome to see. Such an amazing move. Like my move of the night. It was like, well done, Grayson. He's really, really cool. And the ending was great as well. It kind of caught you off guard because you just expected the Dark Order. It's played over expectations again. Because we're used to, if a act is kind of portrayed like the Dark Order has been and then put across like it, they've got a plan for them. Quite often, like whether it's worked or not, they'll just finish the plan. However, with AEW, maybe they've been fortunate of having months to kind of figure it out and see that it's not worked. And they've not featured them on television. I think they've done like one video package and that was about it. So seeing them kind of be featured in this match, get a little description package just explaining their weirdness a little bit. You get to see their entrance, so you get that character work as well. But the sign that they know it's not been working is they lose. And that couldn't be a surprise, because I'm just used to a world where it didn't really matter whether it's not worked or not, this is the plan, we're going with it. And it's great to see them go, actually no, it's not worked, and this team are white hot enough anyway, let's just go for it. And maybe they realised that way at the start, and that's why they did the attack. Unless, of course, it was like a contingency plan. It was like maybe Dark Order might have been the top one, but I don't know. I like how it's turned out. it also gives a kind of storyline arc for SCU and the Lucha Bros, and when they collide, there's a lot of heat in the match as well. Instead of it just being a tournament final, there's actual heat between the characters, which is, yes, awesome, great. The other part of AEW seeing the momentum and trying to keep the energy going is they must have seen that in these build-ups to these AEW television shows, the crowd has kind of died a bit in these Dark Order matches, which they automatically did here. But there was a point which then elevated everything when Chris Jericho and the rest of the Inner Circle made their way to their VIP seats and started being just dicks, essentially. Oh, goodbye monetization if we had it. I need to learn how to not do that. I'm too British. But yeah, so they made their way to their seats and they were just messing about a lot, being taunting, and the camera kept cutting back to them. But that woke up the crowd. Like, they were going mental for Jericho, and all they did was walk to their seats, and it woke the crowd up during this match. After that, when they turned their attention back to the match, they were awake, they were alive for it. It's like, oh, this is great, this is awesome to see, and yeah, it was really well done. So yeah, and of course the SCU, what am I, 80? SCU won the match in fantastic fashion as well. So again, another thing that was great to see. So, well done, SCU, and they make it through to face the Lucha Brothers. I think the match was taking place at Full Gear, correct me if I'm wrong, but yeah, I'm enjoying it. Then we got Joe Janela versus Kenny Omega, and they showed the AEW Dark match and explained how it's on YouTube. Personally, I would have gone full WWE on this, and even though you're saying it's on YouTube, just to make sure people got it, put a YouTube logo. I'm not sure how it works with television and logos and things like that, if you need permission to use that sort of thing. I'm assuming you do, because it's America. But, that's just personally what I would have done. It's just because, I'm perfectly fine with including just a little bit too much information to. It's kind of like, just to make sure you know this is on YouTube. We're saying it's on YouTube. We're showing you it's on YouTube. You know where to find this show. Instead of if the person happens to tune out and not hear it, they wouldn't know where the show is. So just a little criticism. I don't have many criticisms. It's things like this, like little production things, little tweaks, and they've made so many little tweaks that, they're improving at a really rapid rate. They're quickly becoming such a joy to watch every single week. The consistency is building, and I won't really criticise them until they've had a pay-per-view, and then we'll see what happens after the pay-per-view in the build-up to the next one. Because if you assess WWE on just their pay-per-views, most years, you wouldn't feel as down on the product as you probably would do. And AEW have had that advantage of, they've just been going from pay-per-view to pay-per-view, putting on a fun show to fun show. Full Gear kind of feels like that, is that first run-up to television. How do they do on the second, television, the run-up to pay-per-view? What's the second run-up like, especially as there'll be a bigger gap this time? Wait and see. I'm excited as it now. But Joe Janela faced Kenny Omega after they showed it all on the AEW Dark and what happened. Then Kenny Omega, amazing ovation, treated like a megastar. They showed the footage of him defeating Rey Fenix in AAA or AAA. It's Spanish, so I'm not the best at Spanish. I did not do very well at Spanish at school. I remember through that. No, I don't remember it. But yeah, this match was perfectly fine in the middle. It was showing Joey Janela that he was kind of showing everybody that he's not just a hardcore wrestler. He's a genuinely skilled wrestler with amazing hair. And he showed that in this match. A genuinely fun mid-card match. Saw some people saying that maybe Omega should have won a bit earlier, given it was ultimately a showcase of him, but it wasn't. That's kind of where we're used to how wrestling's being presented, and AEW isn't presenting it that way. It isn't really, we're here to showcase the winner, ultimately. The idea is also to showcase Janela, and he's competing in a match which isn't unsanctioned, which is important for Janela, given he's won one match on Dark, and the thing to keep, if you don't really watch it, the thing to keep in mind with AEW Dark is it is canon to the rest of the show. It's not like main event on WWE where it just won't be mentioned. It's like, no, it's just as important as the rest, and their matches on those shows count to their records on the main show of AEW, and they've shown here they properly replay them and show them, and then they lead storyline wise into things, as we saw here. So yeah, that was great. Ultimately, though, Joe Janela was his own downfall as he went hell for leather and tried to do a swanton. Oh, I forgot what the proper name for it is, but he did a swanton onto the ring apron, the hardest part of the ring. And then he just collapsed. Kenny Omega took advantage and hit a ruthless knee trigger, which Janela sold absolutely amazingly. Just out of it on the rope, just leaning back like, that was amazing. I love that. It's such an amazing sell. And then the crowd went crazy with them seeing the one-winged angel. It was like, that was like, it comes to my surprise like how huge they popped for that move. So yeah, well done. Also, the Inner Circle were there, still in their VIP seats, being cut to every now and again. Like, yeah, like that is it's such a good way to keep the momentum going, especially in this midway through TV match where maybe people watching at home might start to sag a little bit. Like even though the match was perfectly fine, it was a really good TV match still. Like maybe they might start to sag a little bit, and therefore you can keep cutting back to the Inner Circle, just remind them they're there. And they did this. I think after the match they did an awesome this is awesome talking about themselves. So yeah, that was Chris Jericho was so damn great on this show. Speaking of, comes Chris Jericho's finest moments with Cody, Dustin Rhodes, MJF, and DDP. So Cody comes out for an announcement about something. He's trying to make the announcement when you hear these really annoying horns really loudly, like ha ha, but less like a duck. So they're doing that, and then he cuts to Chris Jericho, and then you see that the Inner Circle are there, just blowing the horns or pressing the button on top of the horns, just to make the noise down the microphone, and that's why it's like so loud and annoying to everybody. And again, they're just being dicks. They're just being irritating, just to get on Cody's nerves. And then Cody turns to him and just unleashes, loses his cool, drops the fact that he's trying to make an announcement. Cody was asked about it on Twitter, and he responded saying, "It's not time sensitive. I will just make it on a later show." As in, it's an announcement I want to make, but I don't need to make it now. So that kind of pushes the announcement to a side, but then they've still got to make an announcement in the future. And this is where that continuity comes in. What will the announcement be? And the thing is, they will have to announce something, but how do they address that as well? Will they do a reason to drop it or not? I don't know, but I've come to expect consistency. Like, there's a reason Cody's going to make an announcement, and whatever it is, like, there's a reason to it. So, yeah, continuity exists in this world. Great to see. But yes, so Cody then turns to Jericho, and this is so we got our first WWE insult of the night. But I'm somebody that's perfectly fine with the back and forth. I don't quite get the anger of people towards it, just lashing out, just saying, no, they shouldn't be saying anything about this against AEW should just do their own thing, completely ignore WWE. And I'm kind of looking at it as, really the only people saying it are those who have been in WWE, and at the moment it's all contained within one feud. So it's not, all they do on AEW is constantly bash WWE. It's like, well, Cody and Jericho are the only two that have done it, and they're in the same feud. So it's not rampant all over AEW. It's two people have done it, and they're both former WWE guys. None of the guys who have never worked for WWE on television or any of the AEW products have ever said anything against WWE. Like Young Bucks, obviously, being the elite, they take the piss out of the whole wrestling world. So obviously WWE are in that, given that they were wrestling in America. It's impossible to ignore. It's not the same as in the... Well, I don't know, actually. It probably is kind of similar to in the past where you would have seen stuff. I don't know what I'm saying with that. It's 1 a.m. soon. I'm getting tired. I'm thinking about The Outer World. It came out. It got released 55 minutes ago. I'm thinking, I could stream that afterwards. No, go to bed. Go to eat. No matter how excited you are for The Outer Worlds. Go to bed. Yeah. But yes, so Cody then turns to Jericho and he says that this isn't the place that we used to. It's not the company that they both came from. There isn't an invisible wall, and he could just easily step through the ropes and settle things right now, and the fans go crazy. Obviously, Jericho tells him to just shut up, and then points out that Cody is by himself, as Cody's by the barricade about to climb over. It's what are you going to do? By yourself. You can't take on all four of us. An important point, the commentary had gotten over that Jake Hager isn't there, and that he is training for his MMA fight. I think they said like this weekend. So it's perfectly explained why he's not there. And they've done a pretty good job just getting that across, which suddenly sets up the fact that if Cody were to find enough friends, Jericho this week is vulnerable. He hasn't got his muscle man off to the waiting in the wings to save him. Like, no, he's generally vulnerable this week if he can get the men to match him. That's exactly what happened. Like, out came... Who bloody came out? I'm an idiot. Why am I forgetting this? Dustin, his brother. Jesus. His brother came out, Dustin Rhodes. And they're like, all right, Cody, Dustin, surely it's the Young Bucks. Surely the Young Bucks are coming out next. No, MJF's music hits. And that's kind of like, oh, it's the continuity with Cody, where MJF sided with Cody to attack the Inner Circle before. He's with him again. That's great to see. Like, yes, it's not just, oh, it's the Elite together. Like, no, the wider world, MJF saved Cody, best friend. Of course he would come to help Cody in this moment. Then the fourth man is DDP. The continuity with DDP, he was one of the talking heads talking about Cody as like somebody who really, really knows him, about Cody, what happens to him when he's in this kind of mindset going into championship match. Like DDP talking like somebody who's really close to Cody. Also bringing in like the fact that at these championship matches at All In and I think All Out, especially All In, like DDP was in his kind of team with him for that match. So it isn't just legend pop for no reason. Like there is building to it as well. So yeah, it made sense that DDP was there because he's not someone random. Even though he got a great pop, and I wasn't expecting it at all. Personally, that's why he got a pop out on me. So, I wasn't expecting him at all, but it makes sense. They have shown him to have a relationship with Cody. He's not out of nowhere. And then those four go up the stairs and they go to the VIP section to attack the Inner Circle. And the Inner Circle just run away and hide behind a door with a big glass window. And Jericho's just laughing. Oh, I completely forgot when MJF came out. An amazing joke from Chris Jericho. He's like, what do you think I'm scared of a scarf? What idiot wears a scarf? No one wears a scarf. It's like, who wears a scarf? that was brilliant. But so they go up to the VIP section and he hides behind the door with the glass window. They're like, what are you going to do? Kind of just taunting kind of thing. Then MJF takes off his scarf, gives it to Cody, wraps it around his hand, and then smashes the window. And this wasn't just some, like, wouldn't it be cool if he smashed the window so he just used the scarf? It's like, no, it adds to it, like, it's... He did the joke with Jericho, which is hinting back at his past. When did that angle happen with Kevin Owens? 3 years ago? So he's making a joke about something that happened 3 years ago. Then he takes the piss out of MJF's scarf, and that very same scarf is then used to smash the window. Like, it's little details like this about why I like AEW so much. And it's just the constant kind of fact that they do these kind of little things. Like, they don't just do a thing and there wasn't any build to it. It's like, no, when he used the scarf to smash the window, that had been set up. And quite often you might see somebody who respond to this saying, oh, that's predictable. It's like, well, no, that's foreshadowing. They hinted at a thing, and that means you can read the situation and put it together. That it kind of means like when you're watching a wrestling match and you read the emotions of the wrestlers, you don't need the story to be explained to you that heavily. And in AEW they've decided that you will see the story unfold when you're watching the match. The wrestlers can talk about the competition part of the match without having to constantly talk about the story. It's a completely different philosophy. And of course that makes the product like more and more different the more you kind of diverse it. So, yeah. Yes, this led to an amazing fight with Rhodes attacking the inner circle and them feuding into the outside bit. I think there was some form of, was it like an ice cream truck thing? Not truck, like stall. And apparently I read somewhere that whatever that stall was, AEW have signed like a deal with them to do something. So yeah. Oh, as I'm talking about deals with AEW, Rick and Morty are going to be on next week's show. Don't ask me how that's going to happen, but it's happening. Rick and Morty are elite. That's interesting. Obviously, WWE can't do anything with them because they're not PG. So that's pretty cool to see. But yes, so they went to the amazing ball, and the cops come along after like beating up the Inner Circle. They run away, and Jericho just starts taunting. It's like, I've got a ticket. It's like, oh, it was brilliant. And just this unorthodox idea that on the television show, it's the good guys, that your baby faces, who essentially win the fight on television. It just builds up energy. That's kind of what this show was. Like, building up energy and momentum without really doing anything crazy or insane next parts of storylines. Like, no, they built it up really, really nicely. That's just what this was. Just building up to Full Gear, nice and steadily. Nothing insane, no extreme. Like, NXT had a moment would go down in their history. AEW have just had consistency. That's it. It's late. I'm allowed to muck up. Yeah, they had consistency. And this added to that. The build to Jericho and Cody, yeah, going damn well. Full Gear is coming pretty fast. Next up, we got Best Friends versus Young Bucks. In the middle of the card, just put a fun tag team match on. It will keep the energy up for the crowd, and we move on to the next thing. It wasn't really that much to say about this. This was the first really the big test of this segment was Orange Cassidy, where for the first time on AEW television, we got to see Orange Cassidy do his moveset, I guess. With him, he did do the in the pockets dive of the top rope, which popped the crowd again. Like, every crowd goes crazy for that. But the super kicks, it all depends on the crowd, this one. Obviously, the people selling it in the ring mean it. Plus, I love the way they went into the crap super kicks by Cassidy. Just the way they went into it with Cassidy getting pushed away by the Young Bucks, like we were doing our pose. Why did you interrupt that? That was stupid of you. And after pushing him back, he then just jokingly kicked them on the shins, kind of. Like, for me, like, he's gone into a match, like, he was in the Battle Royal or whatever the casino thing was, and he went into that, and he started doing his moveset, and the crowd popped crazy for it. But if he did that on television, I'm not sure how well it would have gone over. But the fact that it came across as he was, like, they pushed him back, and they kind of jokingly retaliated, like, instead of properly going mental with it, it was like, they pushed him back, not super hard, and then he was just jokingly super kicking them, kind of. Which is, yeah. For me, they introduced that segment. They led to the kicks, like the best I've seen them kind of done. It didn't feel like nonsense, essentially, when it happened. It was like, oh yeah, they've pushed him back and he's taking the piss. Like, yeah, I like that. After the match, the Young Bucks accepted, because the Young Bucks won. It was a fun match, nothing that much to talk about, but a fun match that kept the momentum going. And afterwards, the Young Bucks accepted Santana Ortiz, I still want to call them LAX. They accepted their challenge, and I'm assuming that is now official for Full Gear on November 9th at Royal Farms Arena in Baltimore, Maryland, if you're in the area and if tickets aren't sold out already. Next up, we got Dr. Britt Baker, VTR, play, for, that's a niche reference, for Pittsburgh, or as it's called tonight, Britsburg, and she's wearing the Steelers-inspired outfit as well. They explain her character a lot as well, which was, yeah, great to see. Also, Jamie Hayter, she's full of character, absolutely full of charisma, and I think they were saying she's only 24 as well. It was like, wow, to actually have that amount of presence when you're essentially playing the role as a jobber who gets in a little bit of offense, but this was like the one match of the show where it was more about just getting Britt Baker a moment. And they, obviously, the crowd were chanting for the Pittsburgh Steelers. They had the towels that they were spinning, which I remember someone in WWE doing like 10 years ago. What was his name? The Afro guy. Whatever he did. Where his gimmick was he had the spinning towel thing and he didn't get over. What was his name? I want to say it was like Otis or Otis or something like that. Or Ortiz. Oh, it's an old name. I don't remember it. Someone tweet at me at the WMPCat. That's, yeah, whatever that guy's name was. But yes, I'm not entirely sure if this was an effort to get Britt Baker over. It got pops on the night, but that's because Pittsburgh was over. I'm not sure that Britt Baker herself is quite working. There's something about her. I've heard somebody compare it to Charlotte, but for me, it's one thing in particular. It's just like the way that she carries herself and automatically reacts to things. It feels a lot more natural to be the bad guy in the situation. And if she is going after Riho's championship, it makes a bit more sense that she's maybe not the cheery babyface. Oh, sorry. Cheery babyface kind of act that I don't feel like it's quite working. Obviously, she is a really talented wrestler, personally. I think she's perfectly fine to be one of the featured players. It's just it's not quite working in this role. And you've got the mega over babyface in Rio, so it's not like the division is worse off for her not being the like the happy go-go face. So, yeah, that's not a phrase, but I used it anyway. So, yeah. What do you think about Britt Baker? I'm a little bit... Then came my only gripe with the entire show, with Brandy Rhodes attacking Jamie Hayter. So Jamie Hayter was talking to interviewer whose name escapes me, and before she can really say anything, Brandy attacks her, and she's... Jane Decker, that's it, came to me eventually. Yeah, and then Decker's like, Brandy, what are you? And then she just makes an angry face, points at her, like, "Urgh, urgh," and off we go. And it wasn't shot very well. It was weird, really, the way it was shot. You could tell they had the lighting for the commercial area, but the way, obviously, WWE does it is that the whole room is lit up. Like, professional lighting absolutely everywhere, which is like part of Tony Khan's invisible camera thing, where why would all the off-camera bits be lit when in reality they aren't lit? But it did mean when we did this kind of close camera kind of thing, it felt weird. It didn't really work. The way it was shot was odd. But in terms of what it's building to, it was like 10 seconds long. We don't know where this is going. Like, obviously she was really angry about something, but what on earth could that be? I don't know where they're going with this. So I can't criticise something where I've got no idea what it is, but I can say it wasn't really executed that well. Which is, like I said, I did a whole episode taking the piss out of the metal thing falling on Roman Reigns, because on paper, not awful, but just like this segment, in execution, not particularly done very well. Just to put it lightly. So this could be a similar thing where, like the first segment, the way it was shot and actually executed could have been better, if we're being nice about it. But the actual storyline going forward could be fine. He could find his feet. Like, Rowan got over. Like, for me, an angle can't be bad. If Eric Rowan gets over, it ended up serving a pretty decent purpose. And Roman Reigns is in a pretty good place at the moment. Like, he's genuinely popular, which is like a WWE dream. Like, they've finally done it. It's just that, they overthink it whenever they're booking like a top guy. So the reason he's really succeeding is because he isn't the like champion of the brand kind of thing. He's not going after Brock Lesnar. That's where WWE dropped the ball consistently with that. But yeah. Anyway, main event, Moxley versus Pac. I need to go quicker because I'm fatiguing. But Jon Moxley versus Pac, I've already talked about this. Such an amazing way to end the show. Such a high. Well, not such a high. I'm talking about NXT with that one, aren't I? But it ended on a really, really good match, which then gets you excited for the next week, and it doesn't give away a Moxley Pac ending, which you can save for later down the road. This is show 4, I think. Like, there's not really a need to have a definitive ending for this. The crowd were a bit like, but watching at home, I was like, yeah, I'm fine with this. Like, I'm great with this being the end. Like, no issues whatsoever. Like, absolutely love that ending. Well, not loved. I was fine with it. Yeah. I don't really know how to say that anymore. Anyway, then we got NXT. Well, for me, I got NXT second, but yeah. What order do you watch it in? Because obviously for me it kind of gives a kind of signifier about which show has grabbed you. And I know, looking at my feed, it's like all over the place. Like, you got AEW, you got NXT, and as I said with Jeff, who's mental, he got AEW and NXT at the same time. But for me, it's AEW. That's the one I'm watching immediately. I've got the slight difference that I am pumping out a 4,000 word column as I'm watching it, so I'm pausing and writing about it. Because I'm English, I'm not watching live, I'm watching on Fight TV in the morning. Even though on like a show when the Fight TV thing was announced, I said I'm not watching that. Guess what? So, turns out it's more convenient for me to do that. So, yay, another streaming service subscribed to. But yes, on NXT, we did get it was an interesting opening, personally. We got Bianca Belair. Oh, yeah, she can work with IRS. No, Bianca Belair versus Rhea Ripley. and Rhea Ripley getting a nod, I guess. So, yeah, but it was a decent opener. I think the only issue is that it was nowhere like AEW happened with it started with such a hot match. Well, this opened with a pretty good match. Or no, sure, better than pretty good. Like these two are like the women's division in NXT is solid. Like if like my one big gripe with AEW was like the women's stuff. Like there's news coming out today that Tessa Blanchard's contract might be up with Impact. Like in terms of where will Tessa Blanchard feel like the biggest deal, it's probably WWE. Where will she have the most classics? Probably WWE. Which show needs her more? It's AEW. Like their women's roster is the one aspect that's not quite. It doesn't quite feel it has the depth as every other one yet. That said, I have a bit of forgiveness because AEW is still they're still finding the groundwork for their entire show. It's like WWE. They've had that groundwork for years, and when they got extra time, like halfway through them having 5 hours every single week, they finally decided, oh, let's feature the women a bit. And it worked wonders. Of course, NXT showed you how you can do it in like 1 hour, so yeah, maybe my gripe doesn't mean anything. But with AEW, they're finding their feet with the entire show, and the women's world is the only one that's falling a little bit. NXT, theirs is on fire. Like, it's absolutely on fire. Ripley and Belair are, again, two of the top contenders, and they're slowly building up Rhea Ripley. I'm perfectly fine with her just to slowly make her way back up. They don't need to rush her, because I feel like Rhea Ripley should be the one to defeat Baszler. Like, for me, that's why I'm perfectly fine with you taking a little bit longer. Do that as well. Also, we got the number one contenders for the Women's Tag Team Championships as Asuka and Kairi Sane, who had a little message for the winners afterwards as well. So a nice little surprise for somebody like me who didn't happen to see any of the stuff on Twitter. Somehow came to this show unspoilt with that. Again, everyone was talking about one thing, so I was able to miss the littler things from the rest of the 2 hours. But we got the returned Tegan Nox, or I still call her Nixon Newell, which is that's the nerd brain of me, where I keep calling people by their indie names or their pre-WWE names. I do my best. It's just I still can't. Like when you watch, like if you go to see the new Will Smith film, I can't remember his name, but it's Will Smith and younger Will Smith, and I can't not. They're just Will Smith. Whilst I still call her Nixon Newell because she's Nixon Newell. Tegan Nox is Nixon Newell, so I'll get over it eventually. I'm just a nerd. It's like my Dijak thing. I can't call him Dijakovic. I don't want to say, my mouth won't work that way. But this was short and sweet. Obviously, Marina Shafir and Jessamine Duke still feel pretty green, which is like the 4 Horsewomen versus 4 Horsewomen is a massive attraction for WWE whenever they pull the trigger. And it feels like the state they're in, they're always in a place where all it would take is like a few months to kind of slowly build towards something, and an angle where you've got the 4 Horsewomen falling out with each other, but within proximity of each other, to then get completely destroyed. And obviously the MMA Horsewomen have the upper hand because the WWE ones aren't together. And yes, the issue is Marina Shafir and Jessamine Duke are still a bit green, and they've not caught onto it at the speed Shayna Baszler did. And they're improving over time, but how much time, we don't know. Luckily, Ronda Rousey nearly snapped her finger off filming a show, so she's not returning that soon. So they've got the time to learn, which is what NXT's for. It's like there was a show like a few years ago where somebody chanted like "You can't wrestle" during an NXT match. I'm just like, you went to developmental and then chanted that you can't wrestle as a developmental match. That's what developmental's for. So I've always found that chant really weird in NXT. Obviously, we've not heard it on USA because it's kind of up to the standard. But yeah. Speaking of upping standards, we got Breezango and surprise mystery guest versus the Forgotten Sons. Breezango, I love the fact they're coming out every single week and it's just a completely different entrance. Just like they're different jobs every time. It's like I'm assuming it's when they pitch the idea to the creative or Vince McMahon. That's the idea they kind of want to go with, where Vince got a bit too gimmicky with it. Whilst these guys here, I love the fact they come out every single year every single week in a different disguise with a different theme, and they've got the two women as well who also dress up in the related outfits. So once the music starts and you can see their shadows like illuminated by the Titantron, you're trying to guess what it is. And it's just this week's was obviously a bit easier. We got the lights that they use at the airport, and like, oh, they're going to be pilots, and then they come out, and it's just yes, it's it's brilliant. A full what's the film called? Full Top Gun and everything. Obviously, what's her face? Beth Phoenix had her lines and banter, I'll call it, but it felt like scripted. This is the difference between AEW's commentary and the way WWE works, because obviously they're training NXT for main roster. That's how it's worked in the past anyway. But it's scripted banter. And over in Europe, we've got something called the Eurovision Song Contest. We know all about scripted banter. It's YouTube, any like opening host talking bit from any of the Eurovisions, you'll see exactly what we're talking about. You can just watch it afterwards, awkwardly go, scripted banter, hey. So that's what, it wasn't necessarily bad material, but scripted banter between people who aren't necessarily great actors. Like, you did your best, Nigel. You did your best, Beth. It wasn't good. It's not necessarily your fault. It's just the way it was, Anyway, so Breezango ended up winning because their pick was Isaiah Swerve Scott, who got an amazing reaction, and he felt like such a big deal. Like, he's been having the NXT, the North American Championship match where he came in and had a decent match against Roderick Strong, and he's had the matches on 205 Live, but he felt like a massive deal here, and it was quite interesting that he came in and he won the match, and it just put him over really, really well, and of course Breezango got to have fun and gyrate, so hooray! Pelvises. Is that allowed on YouTube? I don't know. I've got to cut my swearing and my, I guess, innuendos and whatever. Also, note from J. Cool's column on NXT, which is upon Laws of Pain, very close to NXT going up every single week, and and the crowd were chanting "Mamma Mia" during the main event, and Janela just in the commentary went, "Call your mother and tell her to turn on NXT." I just thought that it caught me off guard. Like, it wasn't an amazing line, but it caught me off guard. It made me laugh. So, hey. Also, as a final point, Matt Riddle had a match against Cameron Grimes. Before the match, they showed us Tyler Bate as at ringside. Hey Tyler. But they did that. They did that before the match, and it's kind of like, oh, he's there. Will something happen? I was assuming maybe Pete Dunne might be there because they showed him earlier. Yeah, because I hadn't seen anything announced, so I didn't know what was coming up on the show. But Matt Riddle came out to face Cameron Grimes in his hat. The hat did not have enough power, as Matt Riddle, with the power of Bro, far outweighs the power of Cameron Grimes' hat. That's the power hierarchy we just witnessed with this. But Matt Riddle, the ending sequence was awesome. The crowd were popping crazy for this entire match. But, as in, also this was like the middle of the show kind of match as well. This is my one gripe with NXT over these first few weeks, is in the middle, it tends to sag a little bit. Like, you have an amazing beginning, an amazing end, and in the middle it's sometimes, like, it's not bad, it's just fine. This elevated it. Just having this kind of match in the middle, like, it meant so much to the rest of the card. Like, personally, like, there's nothing wrong with putting a cruiserweight match here as well, like, for future shows. Like, they kicked off a show with a cruiserweight championship match, which helps make it feel important, but in terms of, like, propping up the show, like, nothing wrong with having it, like, close the hour. But Matt Riddle ended up winning after an amazing counter where Cameron Grimes went for the double stomp, and we've been taught that the double stomp, that's been ending everybody. Cameron Grimes went for that, but Matt Riddle caught him, turned it into a powerbomb, and then we got, what's the move called? It's like the neutralizer, but it's spun the other. Bro Derek, that's it. It's a bit of a stupid name. But yeah, Matt Riddle got the win and keeps his momentum going. But the important part is obviously after the match, Cameron Grimes is kind of just dozing about around ringside, and Tyler Bate does the, what's it called, where he holds one hand up and then goes bop, but it's bop and bang or something like that. Yes. So they've set up an angle between Tyler Bate and Cameron Grimes. So more British wrestlers for me to be happy with. Oh, and something else I completely forgot about. The NXT Cruiserweight division. I'm assuming it's still called the NXT Cruiserweight. They announced it as the NXT Cruiserweight division, but of course 205 Live still exists, so I don't know what's happening here. But Angel Garza, who's over as hell on 205 Live, defeated Gentleman Jack Gallagher. It was nice to see him. Leo Rush came out for commentary. He was fine. Wasn't amazing. Wasn't crap either. So, if he's not irritating me, I normally count that as he was good. Which is like a referee quite often. If the referee is super distracting, then it can take away from the match. And if he's a bit off it as well. But if you don't notice them at all, is that like the best? Or there's mixed opinions on that. Like someone like Bryce Rensburg or Red Shoes in New Japan, like they're there, but for me they add to the story. Like that's a good amount of like reacting to stuff. Whilst Leo Rush, I forgot he was there sometimes. Like which one is it, good or bad? I don't know. Garza won with. He did something in the ropes to set it up. I can't remember what it was, but then he did a springboard moonsault and got the win in a perfectly fine building up Garza match without it being incredibly special. So yeah, relatively short, but nothing like crazy to go over. So yeah, kind of like I was talking earlier with like Britt Baker in that match. It wasn't that long, so even though it was my possibly low point of the show, that doesn't mean it was super bad and it didn't take up that much time. So bang, and it's done. Like yeah, I'm fine with that. And that brings me to the end of this first live stream at like 1:20 in the morning. I've done it, guys. I need to put the Spreaker link that's been going out at the same time. I've got no issues, thank God. I think it's gone out perfectly fine. So, first, I'll sign out of YouTube first, and then you get to hear the lovely theme if you're listening on the podcast. But thank you to everybody who's tuned in to this version on YouTube, or if you've listened all the way through on the YouTube video. Podcast is a bit easy to plug it on and just do stuff. So, thank you for just listening all the way through. Yeah, here on LOP Radio and now on YouTube, we're going to be having a lot more content, as I said at the start of the show. But on LOP Radio, please do check out all of our other shows. As I said earlier, live after AEW, we've got our AEW post-show Dynamite After Dark with Janela and Jeff, which will be in podcast live immediately following Dynamite. On YouTube, I'll try and upload it as quickly as I can. Obviously, time zone difference gives a little bit of leeway there. Fridays, we've got Mathplan and Mazza with the right side of the pond, and they're doing a debunking the myth about the New Gen era being rubbish. They're debunking that and explaining why it isn't rubbish. It's actually really, really good. I was thinking of either posting that just as normal or putting effort into it to make it like a proper like video podcast kind of thing, because generally the content in there is worth a bit of effort, really. So I might save it up and make video podcasts with it, which will take effort and time, but the series deserves it. A very good first week last week. Saturdays is reserved for AEW, and of course we'll have Full Gear relatively soon there for Aftershock, which is our live post pay-per-view shows, and also All About All Elite, which is currently on hiatus. That is our AEW like main weekly show, but they're currently on hiatus. Sundays reserved for WWE Aftershock. Mondays is Kingdom of Honor with Jaman and his friend Jeff talking Ring of Honor, New Japan, MLW, AEW, what have you. Tuesdays is the Global Revolution, which is our podcast covering the wider wrestling world. Wednesdays is Planned Sports Entertainment is Dead, which is going through a new series where they pick one single match and they'll talk in depth about that match in terms of like its everything, not to limit it down the scope at all. Yeah, it's everything. And then next Thursday, you've got me here on LOP Radio, and I'll be joined by Ricky and Clive from the Ricky and Clive Show over on the over on the Social Suplex Network. My voice is going. This is why I said social as social. They'll be joining me for the Halloween Brexit Name Redacted special, because it's the 31st of October and everything's happening 31st of October. And I was really smart and booked two Scottish people, one of which is a pun machine, and I booked the pun machine on Halloween Brexit Name Redacted Day. So well done me. Oh, well done me. Anyway, just to sign off finally, you can follow me on Twitter at the Damn Implicat. Please do stick around to all the other LOP radio shows that's listed, and for the content here on LOP YouTube. I've got so much stuff to plug. With that, I bid you adieu. Adios.